I'm Terry Levitt. I'm here in the Sun TV studios with Chuck Sutton and Mike Petell of Team 603, and they are back from Baja, Mexico, in their second Mexican 1000 race. So, welcome back.
Thank you. Good to be back.
How do you feel it went this year?
I think it went really well, better than we expected.
Yeah, we had a goal of top 10, and we got it. So it went well. Like he said, it's not without a bunch of snags, but we managed to get through it. So, yeah.
So you weren't quite top 10. Oh, you were number 9 in your group. Is that right?
I think we were 8th in our class and 45th overall. I think is what it
45th.
45th overall.
Yep.
So
271.
271. Yep.
And last year you were what?
We were
11th?
11th and 56th
Out of
Okay.
250.
out of 250. Yep. So competition was a little higher this year. There were probably 3 times the amount of vehicles in our class than there was last year.
About 42, 43?
Yeah, there were 43 in our class this year. And then there was another, 20-something entries overall, for,
Side by sides.
yep,
Yep.
for the race.
I think the course was a lot more difficult this year, too.
It
Well,
was.
let's talk about that. How was it more difficult? Were there more hazards?
There was a lot of high-speed, narrow trails.
Yeah.
There were a lot of silt beds.
Yep. A lot more very rocky, bony terrain. They had this rock called, what was it, shell rock?
Yep.
Is that what they call it? Shell rock, which is extremely hard, embedded into the trail. And a lot of those trails went over this shell rock, and it was wiping people out left and right. Tires and A-arms, and, so that made it difficult because the buggy's constantly vibrating and moving. And but yeah, the course was definitely more challenging this year than last year. Yeah.
The point to point was the same. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's how you get there.
But
Yep.
everything in between was different.
Yes. Yep. They added one extra day this year. They just kind of divided the long day last year into 2 days. So there was 6 days of racing this year as opposed to 5. But yes, the starting point and the finish point were the same, just a different route to get there.
And you mentioned that they were dividing it up into 6 days, and you were a little disappointed because I think you see endurance as one of your strengths.
Yep.
Did you feel that was really a factor this year?
There were a lot of cars taken out.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, the course was definitely harder than the past 2 years that I've done it.
Yeah. I think we saw more vehicles taken out on the first 2 days this year, much more so than last year.
Yeah.
So that weeded out a lot of the competition right there. And then it was just a will to survive and get across the finish line, which we did, but it was some long nights and repairs and, getting yourself resituated for the next day. But our support team was awesome, and we got through all of those challenges and made it across the finish line. Yeah.
Now you talk about silt beds. I've seen some video of that with you just going down the course, and it looks like it's very shifty kind of sand in the silt beds.
It's like talcum powder.
Talcum powder.
It comes over the car like water, like waves.
Yeah.
It rolls and gets everywhere.
It gets into everything. It's very, very fine. Very, very fine. And it does when you hit it. And if you don't have momentum, when we hit a couple of the silt beds, there were trophy trucks and sand rails that were stuck. And you had to literally maneuver through them to keep going.
That's how we found about the jumping cactus.
Yeah, that's when we found a jumping cactus.
We'll definitely talk about the jumping cactus. So in terms of terrain, there's the silt beds, there's this shell, which I think of just bedrock, sounds like.
Yep.
And
It's
then
like a lava rock.
Yeah.
Like it's very jagged.
It's like razor rock, and it's all embedded in the trail.
And then you have gravel, and you have cactus forest. Is that
Yep.
combined with the gravel or the silt or
Yeah.
everything?
You know, it's difficult to explain. We're going to have some GoPro video that we're going to put together. Ben's in the middle of editing, and it'll kind of, if people watch the videos once we get them posted, it gives you an idea how quickly the terrain changes. So we could be on a high-speed run with moguls running 80, 90 miles an hour in 1 minute, and then the next minute we're in a rock bed with cactus hanging over the place, and then we're getting ready to go over a mountain pass. So it changes all the time. So you just never know from 1 minute to the next what it's going to be.
Okay.
It's very challenging.
Okay. And then in your sort of day-to-day thing, I watched some of the video that's posted online. Looks like you run down regular highways to really get to the start of a difficult stage, and then they time you on that stage. I think we had some video of one of those stages starting. You just come off the highway and ride up in line to a gate, and they wave you the flag, and you're off on that stage. Is that the timed part, or is the whole highway also part of your?
They'll look at the you're supposed to start at a certain time, so they'll make sure that adds up, and they'll write it on the car, write it in their log, and then start you.
Yeah. So they have the highways are what they call in transits. So they don't time you. Usually a stage will end, and then you'll hop on a highway for an in transit. And then at the end of the highway, they'll give you a certain amount of time, your target time they call it, to get to the beginning of another special stage, and your special stage is timed. So at the beginning of that special stage, you actually have a start time on the minute. And so you can't approach that start line until that Stella counts down, and then it's your time. So then you can enter, and then they tell you to go. So, but most of the in-transits, probably 95% of them are not timed. Yeah.
Okay. And so let's talk about the encounter with the cactus. You were going around. Oh,
It's all a blur to me.
We're running the video of you starting the stage. I'm sorry. So here you are coming up to the gate.
Yep.
And this is pretty typical. This is from last year, by the way, not this year. But this is pretty typical of how these things start.
Yep. So they'd stop you right here.
Yep.
Okay.
And then the guy will write the number, the time on the front of the car.
Yep.
On your time card, and then they'll wait till the time actually reads that.
Yeah, and then you move up to the starting bracket,
they'll
which
start
is right there, and then they tell you when it's time to go, and then they start timing you from there, towards your total time. They do time you in the transits, but it's to make sure that you're there at your start time.
Seems like a long wait when you're just waiting.
Yeah, it's usually between 30 seconds and a minute, depending on the beginning of stage, that they release people.
And this is not the silt beds. This is the gravel.
That's just gravel.
Yeah.
Okay. And how fast do you go on this? This is a nice gravel straightaway.
Probably get up 80 or 90.
Yep. Yep.
And is that your maximum speed when you're out on the
This
terrain?
year, I think the highest we got was 90.
Yeah, it was about 90. Yeah.
We kept an eye on our belt, the temperature.
Yeah, that was a little more important this year. We wanted to make sure that, learning what we did last year, that we stayed competitive, but we wanted to make sure that we kept the equipment intact. So that was important because, I mean, blowing a belt will cost you 30 minutes, so we were watching the belt temp pretty close and making sure that we weren't going over a point that we did last year, which was kind of our uncomfort zone. And we did good. We replaced the belt, I think, on night 3?
Yep.
And then, or night 2, and then on night 4. So we replaced the
When you
belt
say
twice.
it'd cost you 30 minutes, you mean if you had to replace it out there?
Correct.
I see.
Yeah, so
What
by the
happens?
time
It disintegrates and it'll take out the case. It'll
Yeah.
So you could have the clutch wrapped with all these, strands from the belt.
Yeah, all the
You gotta
fibers.
Clean them out, and it takes a little while sometimes.
It would take me more than 30 minutes to change the belt if none of that had happened. And then there are the silt beds.
Yep.
And, maybe this is actually a good time to talk about your rollover. Mm-hmm. Because that happened in a silt bed, is that right?
It happened just outside of the silt beds. So when we were in the silt beds, that's when he hit the jumping cactus.
Okay.
And then we went around to 90. It was, I don't know.
It was either we came in to a silt bed and there were 2 cars stuck, and so he else go around, so I go around, and there was one cactus that we had to overcome. So I just.
And we found out later why they called them jumping cactus, because you look at it and it looks like a regular cactus with a whole bunch of little pods. But the second you touch that cactus, all the pods release.
Oh,
So,
really?
so there were these thorny pods. One went in his arm, one went down into the lower part of my leg, which I couldn't reach. And so I had to pull that one out of his arm, and I had to wait for another 30 or 40 miles to get to a neutral zone, they call it, where they give you 10 minutes to get out and do whatever you need to do. And finally I was like, we're in a neutral zone, you got to stop. So we got out, and I pulled the one out of my leg.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was those are, and they're pretty gnarly pods. They're pretty big, and the
They're like
thorns
the size,
on them are.
the size of this with 1.5-inch thorns.
So it was hard to get your fingers in to pull them out, because all the thorns just prevented your fingers from getting in there. So
it's stuck in my arm. And he's like,
while we were bouncing around, I'm trying to get a hold of it without getting nailed.
I'm like, just rip it out.
Okay.
Yep.
And this,
She did.
Yeah, I got it out.
You're not the only ones who suffered this kind of injury.
Oh, no,
and
no.
This
And
happens
I
a lot.
guess, yeah, I was like, oh, if you took one of those in the jugular, you might have a.
You're gonna have a problem. Yeah, that went right
Well-
through the fire suit and everything, right
Go
into
to a
his
tire.
arm.
They'll go to a tire.
Yep. Yep.
Well, I guess you're lucky that didn't happen.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
but let's talk about
We
the
learned about them,
major.
though. Next year, we're going to avoid them.
We know what they look like.
So next year you're going. Next we're going to talk about your rollover, the major accident of your race this year. Yes.
Legend.
The learning experience.
And we have some video of that.
Great.
And we can show that, and maybe you can tell us what's happening.
Yeah, Chuck, tell us what's happening.
Now this is gravel, right? This is more gravel or sand?
This is sand.
sand.
We had
Okay.
just come out of some silt beds, so this wasn't silt, but it was very soft sand. And he navigated that corner, and then we think the back end started to come out from underneath, and he went to correct, and that sand just sucked that back end right in and pulled us around.
Off the trail.
Yeah.
And
Shot us off the trail and over on my side, which went over. It did roll completely over, so onto the roof and then back over onto his side.
this is Mike stepping on my head to get
Yeah,
out.
I was stepping on
No.
his visor to get out.
I believe he yelled, every man for himself.
And this is the happy part, right?
Yes, this is. We had 2 teams that were gracious enough to stop and help us out. One of them was Wampum Racing, and the other one was Gravel Ready Mix. And without their assistance, we probably would have been right
the rest of
there
the day.
for into dark, early morning hours.
And all you really needed was more hands to
It was tipped
Push it.
over. We had to go uphill with it.
Yeah,
right.
So
But
we
you
couldn't
just
really-
needed more people to make
Yep.
that happen.
They actually hooked the car to it. They hooked
Yeah.
the car to it and pulled it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the first team that stopped, both of them got out, and 4 of us tried to roll it, and 4 of us couldn't roll it.
Okay.
So then another car saw and just pulled in, and we hooked a strap up to it, and thank goodness he did, because he got us separated, which was good. Yeah.
And the car was fine, and you just kept going.
A couple bruises.
Yeah.
But essentially.
Yeah.
We had a couple war wounds that we had to fix that night.
Half of the light bar shoots for the sky now.
Yeah. Yeah. We broke the clutch cover in the rollover, so we had to do a repair to that. And that was really about it. Things got tossed around on the inside quite a bit, and I think there was more sand in the cockpit than there was in the desert after we uprighted it. And there's the broken clutch cover right there.
Oh, yeah. And you had to repair a lot of things. You had to repair the exhaust
Yep.
about every day. Sounded like.
We had this team, the Wyotech. It's a what is it?
It's a school.
Tech school?
It's a tech school that travels with the race.
They tried to help
Yeah.
repair it, and they wrapped it with a lot of fabric, and it was on an elbow with the exhaust, and
Yeah.
it just ended up blowing out. Probably a third of the way through, but
Yeah, so it blew out on the second day of racing from San Felipe to Bay of LA.
Yep.
So, and he knew it blew out. We could tell by the sound of it. And when we got into Bay of LA, some other racers had warned us, hey, you know, we've seen this problem before, causes fires, and they showed us a video.
It started to melt the back of the car.
Yeah, it was literally melting the bottom of the platform and dripping onto the drivetrain and the muffler. It was getting really hot. So
On your car?
on the buggy, yeah. So he took it into town with Jake that night while we were getting some other stuff ready at the trailer, and they found Wyotech, and Wyotech did the best they could to make a wire structure and put some fiberglass insulation to try to divert, you know, to the regular exit. And I think it held for, what, an hour the next morning?
Yeah.
And then that's when we decided we needed to do something different because we couldn't finish the race like that. So
We couldn't even hear each other. It was so loud.
Yeah, it was very, very loud. So once we got into San Ignacio, we got a hold of Paul Olson from Paul's Instant Garages here in Albany because he was in Loretto.
Okay.
And he ran all over town while we were racing that day to get sheet metal and band clamps, and he met us at the finish line with a bunch of supplies, and we fixed our exhaust with a Kirkland coffee can and some bands, and it held for the rest of the race. So we thank Paul for that. Thank you, Paul and Wendy.
Seems like a perfect muffler, a coffee can.
Absolutely.
It's going to go on the wall.
Now,
Yeah.
now, with your rollover and with the potential of the belt going and the exhaust and maybe a fire, all these things that didn't happen, you know, there's the possibility you could have been stuck out there for hours and hours or possibly even into the night.
Mm-hmm.
What happens with the race? Are you done if that happens? Are you out of the race? Is it over?
You're still allowed to finish, but they would tow you in, like as long as you could fix your car.
Yeah.
They would still allow you to finish. You just wouldn't.
Right. And then they start you in the back of your class
And
the
did
next
they
day.
give you like a major time penalty? And
Yes.
just,
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
So you do finish and you do have a time, but it's a time that's pretty much guaranteed.
A lot of those guys then just kind of finish the race and have fun and help out other people that are.
Now is that what happened to your partner Triple Deuce? Because their time was rather low.
Yes.
And they also had a mechanical issue
Yep.
where it looked to me like they did not finish a stage.
Yeah, well, you know, this year they added qualifying. So in the qualifying round, which was the day before the race started, they were in with this new Maverick R doing the qualifying, and the most we can guess is that after they hit a jump, it weakened one of the ball joints in the front right-hand side, and on the back straight where they were on a high-speed run, it looks like the ball joint gave way. And when that happened, it broke the A-arms and the suspension, and they took a tumble, and they limped it in, and they found, I think it was Fishgistics, helped out and sourced the parts in Ensenada. And the team somehow miraculously got it together through the night, and they got to start the race with it the next day, because it was pretty mangled. But they were having issues with it after that repair. You know, day after day, there was a steering rack that went, and there was another A-arm problem, and then there was a
rear-ended somebody in a silt bed.
Yep.
Somebody was stuck and they couldn't see him, and they
they
plowed
plowed into
into the back of them.
the back of them, and it ruined the radiator, so they had to get a radiator. So they had a lot of unfortunate mishaps that cost them a lot of time. So they just finished to have fun. They were racing to have fun.
Okay. Well, I thought that's what everybody did at the Baja race.
Yeah. Well, they knew they couldn't be competitive, so at that point, so they just decided, hey, let's just enjoy the experience. And
that was the first one. That was the first,
yeah.
That was the first rollover.
Yes.
Qualifiers.
As opposed to
that was at the qualifiers. Yeah.
Crash.
Correct.
So you have a support team. Could you tell us about your support team, who they are and what they do?
Yep. So we have Jake Bissonette. He is one of our mechanics, and he is the main driver of the chase truck. Right now, he is actually in between Dallas and here with the buggy.
That's Jake.
That's Jake jumping out of the bed of the truck. He's a huge help. He knows a lot of things, logistics. we have a problem with trucks and trailers with tires and brakes, and he has no problem stopping and fixing, and it never phases him. He doesn't get phased over anything.
He doesn't need sleep either, apparently.
Yeah, doesn't need sleep. Then we got Ben Croce. He's our IT guy, our wiring guy. He is fantastic. He plays a very important role on the team. He's the one that owns Granite State Cinematics and Croce Communications. And
You
he's
did
the
a
one
great
that...
job
Yep.
alerting us to everything that was going on
Yep,
and sending us that video of the rollover and other videos and photos.
Yep, and on top of making sure he got some footage when we came into the pit stops, he was always there to help whatever we needed. And then we also had Paul Soares. So he was new to the team this year. He owns Soares Construction out of Tiverton, Rhode Island. And he was there as a backup driver and also a very important support during all the pits and at night when we needed help in the trailer. He lended a really strong hand, and we just have a great support team. We couldn't have done it without him.
And aside from Paul, is everybody from the Valley?
No,
Originally, Jake was originally from.
Jake was originally from Bartlett.
Yep.
He currently resides in, I think, Turner, Maine.
Yep.
Yeah, Turner.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Yep.
And then you have partner teams.
Yes.
Tell us about those.
We have the Mankeys, Don and Donald, father and son.
818 and 88, I think.
Yeah, they're out of San Francisco. And Don is who got me into this.
Yep.
And then there's Benjamin and Adam,
Yep.
who's on the 222 team.
Yep.
And then there's Thomas Purcell, who we took his car this year, picked him up in Dallas, and he came with us this year. Last year we rode with him, so they've both been a big help.
Yeah, we learned a lot from Thomas, from riding in with Thomas. So this year we wanted to return the favor, so he jumped in our trailer. And
Thomas's father-in-law that's won the 1,000.
Yep, Thomas's father-in-law.
times.
Yeah,
And
with Bobby Gordon, I think.
Yep.
Oh.
With Robbie, not Bobby Gordon.
Bobby
right?
Gordon, yep.
Bobby Gordon.
Yep.
Okay. And he did the best out of all the 5 of your
Yeah,
partner
yes.
teams.
Thomas is very good.
Yeah, he is a racer. He is definitely a racer.
Is he a professional racer?
He could be.
What's the difference
He's
in
an engineer.
a race like this between the professionals and the amateurs? Because there are definitely
It's
professionals
really the
who
sponsorships.
take part.
Yeah.
The sponsorships.
Yep. Yeah, it's the money that jumps behind it, and obviously talent. There's a plays a big role, but those teams that get some high horsepower behind them get what they need to make them a lot more competitive. So that's what we're going after. We're trying to secure some more sponsorships, and that really helped us out this year. Yep.
And you're not done with racing.
No,
You-
no,
you-
no,
you're-
no.
you're
We're
gonna
going
do
back to
this
I have
again.
a feeling this is just the beginning.
All right. Well, you mentioned you might get a new vehicle for next year. Is that still in the works?
Yes.
And what are you looking at?
We're going to run a wider car. It's a much bigger. Our car is 64 inches wide, and most cars out there are at least 70.
Yeah.
A lot of them are up to 100 inches,
Yeah.
the big trophy trucks. So we don't really fit in the ruts. We're constantly swapping sides, and it's really difficult. We
Yeah.
joked about we're racing a golf cart.
Yeah. So the model, it's going to be a Can-Am Maverick R, they call it. It's going to be a little bit of reacclimating because the drivetrain is completely different than what we're used to. So the transmission switches from a CVT, which is a variable belt system, to a fully automatic 7-speed transmission. So the shift points are going to be a little bit different to get used to. Thomas actually currently has one, and he's been kind of giving us pointers on what he's running into, what we have to acclimate to.
He's been short course racing it.
Yeah, he's been short coursing that vehicle.
There are at least 4 different categories for UTVs. You have a UTV,
Yep.
and this new vehicle will also be a UTV. Will it be in the same category, the same class as what you're racing
No,
now?
so next year's buggy, we're going to increase up to the Pro Open class. So we'll be in a Pro class next year. Yep. Which is going to be another challenge, but
We were running with them
we got
anyways.
more. Yeah, we were running with them and past a lot of them. So I really think, or we both really think, that this Maverick R, just by nature of being a little bit more stable, is going to help us get even further up into that pack.
And this Maverick R is designed for racing, whereas the
It
one
really was, yeah.
Yes.
whereas the one you've been driving was not.
Yep.
They race them, but this one is solely built
Yep.
to race.
So we equipped our current buggy to be able to withstand the environment that we were going to put it in. This one is fairly well equipped for the environment we have to put on all the safety equipment and all the required pieces that NORRA requires for us to be able to get on the course. And then we'll do some performance, stuff to it as well.
So I think we talked about this a little before. From the last race to this race, you learned you needed a better suspension, and you feel like the revamped suspension that you had this year held up really well.
Yep.
That wasn't really on the list of repairs, constant repairs.
He exceeded our expectations.
Yeah. I have a feeling that we'll be sending our shocks out once we get everything equipped on the new buggy to the same place, which is George at Double E Racing down in Tennessee, and he did a wonderful job. Really, really helped us this year.
And what other things did you learn this year that you want to take to the future?
Try not to roll it. It could happen. That's just like he said, it's kind of the nature of the beast. Things like that happen. So
I
you gotta
told him
be
it didn't
prepared
hurt.
for it.
I had to prove it to him.
Yeah, he had to prove that it didn't hurt. It didn't hurt. It was fine. Yep.
Okay, so you're going back to Baja next year. This is the plan.
Yep.
Other races in your future?
We'd love to do the Mint 400 in Vegas.
Yep. So those are some of our bucket list races: the Mint 400 and possibly the King of Hammers, right? King of the Hammers.
Yeah. Yep.
Eventually.
We'd have to do some modification for that.
And where's the King of Hammers?
I think that's in
Johnson Valley, California. Yep.
Okay,
So,
well,
Southern California.
looking forward to seeing what you do next.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anything else we should talk about today?
No?
No, I think you covered it all.
All right. Well, thanks for coming in.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Thank you
having us.
very much.